Hello and welcome back to another episode of Prolific People with me, Tom Bolan, and thank you very much for joining us again on this episode. And I'm joined by Joe Edwards today. Very, very happy to have Joe with us today because we're going to be talking about Rent2Rent, something that I've never actually got into myself, but Joe is prolific at Rent2Rent and has done quite well for himself. So welcome, Joe. Hello and welcome to the channel.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate that intro. It was very kind words from you. Really excited to be here. I think we can have a good conversation here, and I'm really looking forward to sharing my story, sharing what I've been up to, but also having a good conversation with yourself and maybe trying to pull a bit of information out of yourself for the viewers as well. I think that'd be quite interesting. I think a lot of people would like to know a bit more about you, Tom.
Yeah, no one knows lots about me because I just interview people, right? So
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
still, what's the word? Still like a dark horse.
Exactly, and I think that's where me usually being the host might come in. And
Yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, because
let's
you've got
enjoy
your
it.
own
Let's have a great
channel
conversation.
as well, right?
Yeah, so I've done YouTube and all that sort of stuff. I'm actually in the process right now of filming a weekly vlog, which will be interesting. So the first one will come out either today or tomorrow, actually. So today's the 15th, or tomorrow the 16th. So yeah, I'm going to release that. It's kind of like a really behind the scenes, raw look into kind of my life, what I get up to, literally as like a day by day.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people think property mentors just don't do anything. They're just like, oh yeah, I'm just going to sit here and take your money and just that's me, that's my life. But there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. It's crazy. And don't get me wrong, we do have them days that are like really crazy busy and some days that are really quiet. And
Yeah,
you can never kind of justify or you can never say, right, well, tomorrow's going to be quiet. Like you just never know what the day's going to bring. So
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, that's great. So before we get into it, because we're going to be talking about Rent2Rents, mentoring, and things around property investing, but why don't you just tell our viewers about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so my name's Joe Edwards. I have been in property for 5 years plus, probably just over 5 years now. I started out doing some training. I found myself, I started out, I think, the same way everybody starts out. You come across a few YouTube videos, you start getting the bug. And I think I realized that property was the thing for me when I could kind of I watch these videos and I could kind of recite them back to you instantly, like the whole
Yeah.
video. It just stuck with me. And I was like, this is something I'm interested in. You can't ignore that sign. So I thought, okay, let's dive into this a bit more. Obviously came across the likes of Samuel Leeds. And I didn't really look into it too much, but I thought because he's got the big name, the big brands, I just won't be able to afford that training person. So I went on Facebook and I found myself a Rent2Rent mentor. So I did that. And it was only a 3-month mentorship at the time. I can't even remember what I paid for that because it was like 5 years ago, but it's a couple £1,000. And yeah, I never kind of looked back since. Off the back of that, I went and got myself some Rent2Rents. And then I kind of took my foot off the gas. So I'll give you a very brief sum up of what's happened in the last 5 years. Kind of took my foot off the gas for a few years because I had 2 rent to HMOs, making about £1,000 a month. I was still working part-time. I was running basketball leagues for kids at the weekends. So I was still kind of making some money from that. And I was also having these Rent2Rent. So I was probably making about 2 to 2.5 grand a month, doing next to nothing. So I was kind of like, this is nice. Being up north, everything's a lot cheaper anyway, rents and all that sort of stuff. So I didn't have loads of outlay. So, every day I was out eating lunch with friends or just doing this and doing what I want when I wanted. So I really enjoyed it. So I really took my foot off the gas. And then kind of fast forward 2021, I thought, you know what? I'm going to get a ball rolling again. I'm going to get 10 more Rent2Rents this year.
Right.
COVID hit.
Yeah.
Absolute nightmares. Oh, what do I do here then? And then I kind of just got into it all with the online stuff. I was doing online networking events, online Zooms with different people. I think I did quite a few of the Samuel Leeds online crash courses, just jumping in there, networking, being in them environments. And off the back of that, I actually built up a really good connection with quite a lot of people within the property industry. And I think because I already had Rent2Rent, a lot of people were coming to me for advice and for help and this, that, the rest, because I've already been doing it for a few years. So I think that was quite interesting. I think that was initially, and this was talking back to 2021 now, what lighted that fire for kind of getting into mentoring and stuff like that. It was kind of like, okay, people are coming to me. I've got knowledge. I've got value. I can help people. And that's kind of where it just snowballed, really, when I got more Rent2Rents, kind of grew it. And then so one big thing that we did, which I'll just dive into briefly, and we can expand later, is we created a lead generation business. Now, this was something that hadn't necessarily been done before. It was either deal sourcing or you just take them on yourself. There was nothing for leads, like an actual business setup. So we created this, the lead generation service. We charged £500 per campaign, and each campaign was 10 hours of call time for one of our clients from one of our members of staff. So they give us their criteria. I say I want a 2-bed in Birmingham, £1,000 a month with parking. Something I say that. We'd allocate that to someone in our staff. They'd then just spend all the time doing it. So we say it's 10 hours of call time, but we always guarantee at least one lead. So one qualified lead. And what I mean by qualified lead is we've spoke to them, they've agreed to rent, we've got it in writing, and we've then passed that on to the person who's wanted a lead, saying, we've got you a viewing on this property. They're happy to rent, it meets your criteria, and that's it. It's a lead. We're not diving into the numbers, we're not doing this, because then it becomes a deal. It's a lead. So we did that for a while. But what we found was, so we took on 12 members of staff to do this, all of which are people that I met on, I'm not going to say who, on a training course that was £3,000. And that training course was a deal selling training course.
Right.
And because they've all spent £3,000 on a training, I thought, you know what, these guys know what they're doing, you know? So I pulled them all in, and it turns out they didn't have a clue. Some of them didn't even know what Rent2Rent was. So me, Debbie, and someone else we had at the time, we were on the phones every single day with these people, rather than finding leads for our clients, teaching them how to speak to estate agents, how to do this, how to do that, in a completely unstructured manner, just helping them get through it so we can eventually get some leads for our clients. Turns out we were just mentoring these people for free.
And then that's what's evolved into you now mentoring people, but which we will get onto later. But we've mentioned Rent2Rent a few times already in this interview, and some people out there don't know what Rent2Rents are. So can you just explain to us what it is?
Yeah, definitely. So Rent2Rent is where effectively you take a property from a landlord, so you're renting it from them, and you just re-rent it out to somebody else. The easiest way to kind of explain it for people who don't understand what it is to just say the word subletting. We are effectively subletting these properties, but we do it legally through a company with the right contracts. Subletting is illegal. Rent2Rent is legal. But the easiest way to explain it is subletting, because everyone understands what subletting is. You rent a property, you re-rent it out, but you're not allowed to do that.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go. So Rent2Rent, it for me, it's something I never got into, but there are a few strategies out there now with Rent2Rent that kind of interest me, in particular, Rent2Rent social housing. What are the positives that you see in the Rent2Rent space?
With the social housing, or just in general?
Just in general with Rent2Rents, because for me, it doesn't create wealth, or you're not buying the property, are you? You're just renting out for, say, 5-year period, which would create a lot of good cash flow if it's done right. So, another positive might be you're avoiding interest rate increases, right? And especially at the moment now with them going up, and it's really hitting especially the new property investors, for people that want to get into property investing, and the numbers just don't stack for 6-7% interest. So a Rent2Rent, a positive of a Rent2Rent would be avoiding that interest rate, right? So are there any more that you kind of tell your mentees, like, this is why Rent2Rents are a good route to start?
Yeah, it's a fantastic route to start. And I think the biggest reason that you just can't ignore is just the initial investment. You know, you could make the same, if not a lot more money, doing a Rent2Rent on a monthly basis than what you would if you bought the property. Because if you do a standard buy-to-let, you might be charging, I don't know, £700 to £1,000 rent. Your mortgage might be £500, so you're making between £200 and £500 on that property. But if you do a Rent2Rent, if you do either HMO or service accommodation, obviously it depends on the property and which strategy works best for it. But we only look at properties that earn at least £500 net profit upwards. So you could be making between £500 and £2,000, £3,000, £4,000 a month from one property. So it's, you know, the initial investment might be, so let's say £10,000 for a Rent2Rent. But if you bought that property on a buy-to-let mortgage, you got your 25% deposit. Let's say it's a £100,000 house, so it's still an effectively cheap house. It's a 25 grand deposit plus all your legals. Plus, then you're getting it on the market. Plus, you'll probably get someone to manage it because I feel like if you're buying it, unless you've been doing this already, you're not too clued up on the more creative strategies, such as HMO and service accommodation. It would just be a standard buy-to-let.
Yeah.
And the money's not really there.
What I think about buy-to-lets at the minute, well, just in general, really, because it's one source of income from one property and it's quite a low income per month. And if something goes wrong, like you need a new washing machine or you need a new boiler, then that could cost, 500, 1,000, £2,000. That could be your yearly profit gone just by replacing a boiler. So it's not necessarily a risk, but your cash flow has just been killed from one issue with the property. So do you see any risks with rent-to-rents?
Yeah, of course I do. There's, you know what? Rent-to-rent, as I always tell people, it's still an investment.
Yeah.
You are investing money into something. And this is why I find it so naive of people to say you don't need to get training to do it. It's an investment. It's like investing in stocks or crypto. Like if you just invest blindly, you're going to lose money. It's as simple as that.
Yeah.
So yeah, risk with rent-to-rent, again, if you're doing even HMO, tenants not paying, exactly the same as if you get a buy-to-let, you might have tenants not paying. I guess the beauty of doing a HMO way is, let's say you've got 5 tenants in a property. If one doesn't pay, you've still got 4 paying your rent. It's a lot easier to do that. If you do it on the Airbnb sense, if any issues come about, they're guests, they're not tenants, so they don't have the same rights. So you can literally kick them out. So quite a few of my mentees have messaged me, a couple in the past week actually, saying they've had an issue with a tenant, or sorry, not a tenant, a guest. This has happened. I said, just get them out. Just get them out of the property. Just kick them out. And if you refuse to, you bring the police because now they're trespassing because you don't want them there.
Right.
Simple as that. If they're not paying, sorry, go on.
That's with short-term lets, right? With holiday lets.
Yes, exactly that. But when it comes to the risk, obviously, like anything, it's an investment. Money's going to be laid out. You might not make loads of money straight away. Sometimes it can be a bit slow. Sometimes it can be really quick. I think 95% of our mentees, after getting a service accommodation, have literally had a booking the same day it's gone live, which shows it's a good deal anyway. But it can also be a bit slow. All right, you might get that first booking, but then it might be a bit slow to get a couple more coming in because you've got no reviews, you've got no branding yet. It's your first one. You've got to build up that momentum, and it takes a bit of time.
Yeah.
So there is risks, and there's always the risk of someone trashing a property and this, that, the rest. But it's about having the systems in place to ensure that doesn't happen, or at least how to deal with it if it does happen properly.
Yeah, because you are contracted to pay the landlord a certain amount every month, and if you miss that payment, then you've broken the contract, and it is down to you to pay that amount. So if you took a contract on, and let's say it was a service accommodation, and you had no one booking in for the first month, you need to be prepared and have the cash behind you to cover those first few months of your payment to the landlord, right?
Yes.
So that would be a way to kind of avoid the risk. So you're not advertising getting into these deals with no money, which is what a lot of people do advertise, right? You still do need cash to get into these deals.
You do need cash,
to be aware of the risks. But it is a way to get into property investing, to start and to learn with a smaller pot of cash than if you were to buy a house, for example. Is that right?
100%, exactly right. And I don't advertise you can do it with no money in the sense of a lot of other people do. You can do it with no money, but there's a sub clause there, which basically means it's a joint venture, or it's something else. So you're working with someone. And what I mean by that is someone either funds it and you do all the work, and then you split the profits 50-50. And that's effectively what a joint venture is. Someone funds it, you do the work, and you split the profits.
Yeah.
So you've kind of gone in with no money. But if you are getting into rent-to-rent, there is still an initial outlay of your compliance. You still need to be compliant if you're getting into this business. You can't just step into it. And a lot of people, I feel like, because they see it all over YouTube and this, that, the rest, and they think you don't need this. It's not a business. It's just a way to make a bit of money. It's a business, and you need to treat it like a business if you want to be successful. Otherwise, you'll crash and burn very quickly.
I like that, because that's so true. And you do see a lot of YouTubers advertising it as being very simple, which it can be simple if done right, but you need to know how to do it right. And if you don't, you're gonna have issues. So what's the overall goal with rent-to-rents? Because, as I say, you're not creating wealth because you don't own the property. So you're not creating that kind of that equity within the property. So what do you see as rent to rent? Because you're getting the cash flow from it. As you said, you had two at the start and you were getting about £2,000 a month. But what happens in 5 years' time when those contracts end? What's the target here?
Yeah, so to be honest with you, Tom, when the contract end, as long as everything's been good, there is no reason whatsoever why they will not renew that contract.
Right. Yeah.
You know, they've had to rent every single month. They've had no headaches because you've taken care of all the headaches. It is an easy passive income for them. So the chances are they'll probably just unless they're looking to sell, they will just renew that contract anyway, which is something a lot of people don't touch on. You know, we do say we'd like to rent a property for 3 to 5 years, but to be honest with you, they will just renew if it's a nice, easy income for them. Why would you, risk getting someone else in who's a headache and it's that way? If it's just nice and easy, you're getting what you want, life's good. So yeah, but the overall goal. So it's interesting you say this. Last year, me and Debbie, so Debbie's my business partner in Jordan's property, and we were talking about we're gonna use this year, build up some cash flow, learn how to do developments, BRRs, and then this year do it.
Right.
No, sorry, that's wrong. This year, spend the year learning how to do it. Yeah. Next year, do it. That was what it was meant to be. Yeah, we've not even started. We've not looked into starting it, and it's just been crazy. Like I preach about rent to rent, make sure you get trained up before you jump into it. Exactly the same as the approach I'm going to take when it goes into BRRs and developments. Yeah. I've not done it before. I don't know I've got a very basic understanding. I've been in property for a while now, but I don't know the ins and outs. And you need to know the ins and outs before you get stung by something or something crazy you didn't know about and you're just going to pay thousands that for.
Yeah.
So that was the plan. But yeah, we've just been that busy. We've taken on quite a lot of mentees so we take people on in waves as well. So we take usually around 5 on, and then that's it for a couple of months. Then we maybe take another 5 on because we don't want to saturate our system, our service. We promise everyone the same service, and if we just take loads of people on, we're not going to be there for them. Yeah. But also on the flip side, we also want to enjoy our life. We don't want to be 24. Literally, we are 24/7 mentors, but we don't want to be working on our phones 24/7, just replying to people on Zooms every day. Like we are on Zooms every day, every minute of the day. I meant
of what you're trying to set out to achieve.
Yeah. So yeah, I think the overall goal, just to go back to your question, sorry, Tom, is grow the business. My goals change a lot. What we want to do, where we want to go, and it's a day-by-day thing because you never know what's going to come up. We've got a lot of really exciting stuff happening right now, which makes me want to sit more in the rent-to-rent space and keep doing this and keep growing this and growing a really good overall business. But I think long-term, we definitely want to start going down the BRI development routes and progress that way in property.
Yeah, I agree with that because if you're enjoying some cash flow now, and you'll see it as a business profit, why take all of that profit out of the business? Because as you say, this is a business. You should be using that profit to then go grow the business further and then create more equity within the business, which will create more wealth, and then just keep on growing, right? So I agree with that. If you take your cash flow and accumulate that cash and put it actually into bricks and mortar that you actually own, and gradually grow from there. I think that's a great route to take. So let's talk about more risks because there's a contract in place with Rent2Rents, and let's say you do it for a 5-year term. There are issues at the minute with landlords having to refinance their properties and going on to a much, much higher interest rate of double or triple what they were paying before. So what happens if you're in this contract and a couple of years down the line, your landlord comes to you and says, we can't progress, we can't proceed with this anymore? What would you do?
It's a great question you ask. Reason being is that's literally just happened to us in the past couple of weeks. Right. So I'll explain how it's come about and what the situation is. So one of the apartments we've got on a rent to rent it's down in Newbury. So I live in Manchester, Debbie lives in Cornwall. It's about 4 hours away from both of us. So it's a very much we've got a team on site who does everything there. So it's quite far away from us. We've had this now for just over 2 years, I think, this property. Mm-hmm. It's gone really well. We pay £800 a month rent, and that is for a 1-bed apartment in the centre of Newbury. So the landlord's come to us very recently and said, obviously, interest rates going up, X, Y, Z. We're going to have to effectively sell the property. But what we'll do is we'll sell it with the clause that it comes with you. They still operate with you being a rent-to-renter. So I was like, telling Debbie, we're just going to lose this apartment because even if someone buys it, their mortgage is going to be crazy, which means our rent's going to be crazy. It's not really going to be worth it. So anyway, I went back to them, and I think this is where the big takeaway key is from, if you listen to anything on this podcast right here today, is relationships are key. Relationships are the king of everything. So I just had a conversation with him. And I said to the landlord, I said, understand everything you're going through. And I did everything he asked. So I let the estate agent come around, do evaluation of the property, this, that, the rest. And I just said to him, I said, would it be beneficial for you if we upped our rent to $950 a month, let's say? That's an extra £150 to him every single month.
Yeah.
He came back, that's very kind of you. Let me have a conversation. Let's see what's going on. Anyway, he then came back and said, the only way this could actually work is if we upped it to £1,000. So that's a £200 increase on our rent. But what he did say is his mortgage has, like you said, tripled.
Yeah.
So I don't know what he's paying now, but I think it is very close to around £800 to £900, his mortgage for this property in Newbury. So effectively, he's only making £100 or £200.
Mm.
But because we've worked together and we've built that relationship, he's happy for us to stay. He still holds the asset at the end of the day. Whether he gets monthly income, as long as he's paying his bills, I think he's happy with that.
Yeah.
He's still got the asset. But we can still operate as a rent-to-rent. And I'm fine paying an extra £200 a month because we're making money. That £200 a month we can lose that because we're still making roughly about £1,000 a month on that one property anyway. So then we make £800 a month. That's good money still. It doesn't cost us anything because the profit's all taken out of what we're taking. It's just £800 a month coming in. Fine. Don't be greedy, people. That's one of the biggest things. And I tell you what, I'll pull up a text that he sent to me. And I think this shows the importance of relationships. Okay, so this is exactly the message you sent to me. Thanks, Joe. We are significantly short on paying the mortgage as compared to rent/expenses. Our mortgage has increased more than 3 times. Is it possible to increase it to £1,000? We are on tracker. If it goes below that, we promise we will pass it to you. Have a think and let us know. So he's basically said, I think he feels a bit cheeky upping it to £1,000, but because we're like, yeah, it's fine, we're still making money, let's do it. He's then said, if our bills come down, we'll just give you back the difference. Relationships are key.
He doesn't have to, does he? He doesn't have to give you the difference. He's just doing it out the kindness and because you have a good relationship with him.
Exactly that. And I think going back to your point of the risk of that happening, it all depends on your relationships and how you handle situations. All risks within business can be mitigated if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got knowledge in this industry, if you've got good relationships, you know people, this, that, the rest, the odds are in your favor.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. So let's talk about the freedom that this creates you, because we were trying to organize this call a few weeks ago, and you were on holiday and I was on holiday, and we finally found a time that we're both free. But it does actually create that freedom of not being stuck to a job, not being stuck to a certain location, and you can work from abroad. So if you have reasonable cash flow and you can afford to be doing these holidays, then why not? So tell us about the freedom that it's given you.
The freedom is incredible. And I think one of the biggest things I've realized lately, you know, I was speaking to extended family at my niece's christening a couple of weeks back, and the conversation came up from my cousins and stuff like that, who I've known all my life, obviously, but I don't speak to them on a day-to-day basis or a month-by-month basis. We got a big family. And they were saying, oh my God, you know, you're smashing it, da-da-da. And something just twigged for me there and then. And it was, success for me isn't how much money's in the bank. It's having the time to do what you want when you want.
Yeah.
It's not being restricted to working these hours. It's not doing it. It's being able to do what you want when you want. Obviously, you need a bit of money there to fund that lifestyle, obviously. But it's not about having millions and millions and millions sat in the account. As long as there's enough to do what you want when you want. And if you live a minimal lifestyle, you don't need a lot. You know, so as you said, going back to being effectively geo-restricted. We are not. We can work anywhere in the world. And that's the beauty of what it is that we do. All of our rent-to-rents are passive. They're all systemized with either channel managers for our service accommodation or my HMOs are managed by a management company because I've got a really good relationship with them and they only charge 8%. Bargain. And they do everything. I just get paid. It's great. Again, relationships. So yeah, being able to work anywhere in the world is fantastic. The training and mentoring is just jumping on Zooms, WhatsApp calls, phone calls. You can do that anywhere in the world.
It's funny that you say a family member said you were smashing it, but really that's their perspective on it, right? Because everyone's perspective is different, and from what people would say, like, oh, I'm successful, they will tell me that I'm successful, and I will say I'm not because I'm not where I want to be yet. Did you feel the same?
100%. I think it's imposter syndrome. I think it's where you can get to, and because you're not there yet, you are not successful. But I think it's good to take a third person approach and kind of zoom out and be like, look where I have actually come. Where am I? I think it's good to be humble in what you've done and celebrate your wins and celebrate where you are. My life, I'd never thought I'd be in this position where I genuinely don't have to work. I never wanted to work for anybody because I hate working for people who don't know especially when they don't know what they're doing and running a business. Like, stresses me out. But yeah, to be in this situation where I can actually just work for myself and I've made it a reality. It's amazing. I'm sure you'll probably feel the same.
So for me, as you say about celebrating the wins, right? I really struggle with that because I can't define what a win is. Some people would say doing your first viewing is a win, getting your first offer accepted is a win. And for me, those things aren't a win because anyone can do that. And I've had several offers accepted where they've not gone through. So what if I was to celebrate having my offer accepted, but then it not going through? What would be the point in celebrating? So I actually really struggle celebrating anything until the money is in the bank and everything is said and done, and you can move on from it. And then that is a win for me. What's your opinion on that?
I think you've raised some very interesting points there, Tom. The first one that really stuck out to me was when you said, but anyone can do that. And one of my biggest quotes and my favorite quotes is comparison is the thief of joy. And that's what you're doing. You're comparing to anyone can do that. So why should I celebrate? It's the thief of your joy. But yeah, anyone can do it. But I feel like a win should be if you've had to step out of your comfort zone, because some people find it super, super easy to ring estate agents and speak to people. Some people, it's the most daunting task in the world. If you have to step out of your comfort zone, even if it's by, one step out of your zone, I think you should celebrate that as a win. You've done it. Because then when you do it again, it's normal. And you're slowly pushing them boundaries out and out and out and out.
Yeah.
And, I do get what you're saying. I also feel the same.
Yeah.
What's a win? What's not a win? You just continue working. You just work through it. What's next? What's next? What's next?
Yeah.
Get that. But I think it's about if you can't celebrate the individual wins, maybe at the end of the day, you've gone, look where you were at the start of the day to the end of the day. Wow, that's actually a bit of progress right there. That's good. Yeah. And, you don't have to celebrate with a drink or this, that, the rest. Even just telling yourself that was good. Yeah.
Because you see people, they treat themselves to maybe a bottle of champagne or a new bag. Some people like to buy bags to have this kind of landmark of the getting to a certain point. And I think if that was me, I'd be an alcoholic or I'd have a room full of bags, with all these wins that I've done, like if I was to celebrate every single one. So yeah, I think it is maybe just acknowledging the fact that you've done it, moving on and progressing to get to the next stage. I think that's what I'll continue to do for now until I get my boat, and then that would be.
Yes, Tom, we'll have our yachts. Let's do it. That's my dream.
Yeah, man. That's like, I'll say the ultimate goal, right? But it's not, because once you get to that stage and that level of being able to buy a yacht, I think you would need to have another target after that, or else you just stop and just. Then you always need to have goals, don't you?
Yeah, because goals and targets, that's purpose.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've gone through stages and everybody else watching this has gone through stages of, I guess, even the most basic version of procrastination. And whilst you're in it, you're like, what's the point? What am I doing? Like, what? You're not focusing on your goal or your target. So it's like your purpose is just gone.
Yeah.
And you need that. And I think that's why, people who don't work or they kind of maybe even on a dole and stuff like that, their depression's a lot higher there, is because they don't actually have something they need to go out and do every day. The purpose is kind of gone from them. And I think it would definitely help having that and focusing on your goals, focusing, okay, well, today I want to do this, let's do it. So yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying there.
There's quite a big topic that I want to discuss on this channel that is about goal setting and the mindset around that. And as you say, because there is a lot of depression in this country, and I think that is down to there are a lot of people relying on the system and they don't actually have their own targets in mind, and maybe they do have aspirations, but they're in this circle or this environment where they think that's not possible for them, but it is possible for anyone if you just put your mind to it. So how do you kind of set your targets out, and do you write them down?
Yeah, for me, it's more a checklist of what I need to do that day. That is effectively what my targets are. I am very bad at saying in 3 months I want to get here, in 4 months I want to get there. I've always struggled with goal setting and this, because for me, even if I do set goals, my brain thinks it doesn't mean anything. Like, I just need to do the work and get there. Don't matter how long it takes, whether it's 2 months, 10 months, whatever.
Yeah.
It will happen when it happens, because if you set a short time limit, and this is the way my brain works, I am obviously, I say obviously, it's not very obvious. I'm a very unique person. My brain works completely different to 95% of everyone else I've ever met.
Yeah.
So for me, it doesn't really, it's all about the quality of the product. So whether it takes if you say I want to do this in 2 months, is the quality going to be there? Is it going to be sustainable? Are the foundations there? Or even if it's 10 months, it depends on your goal and what it is you're looking at. So for me, it's more just having a checklist of what I need to do that day, just slowly working through them one by one. And I think that helps with productivity. It helps focus. It helps clarity of the mind, because you just know what you need to do, rather than, because I do still do this a lot. Everything's in my head.
Yeah.
Like, everything I need to do is in my head at all times for the next 3 months. And it's hard to then remember on the spot, what do I need to do next? What do I need to do next? So I think writing it down. So yeah, I think that's the way I do targets and goal setting, is just write down just what I need to do that day. And it just grows from there.
Yeah, with things in your head, right? I have the same thing, because I have a to-do list, right? I just have pages and pages in my notebook of what I need to do, and I tick them off. And I might put the most important ones at the top, but I do have a lot of them in my head. And it actually creates that burden of having that in my head, like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do this. And then when you find 10 minutes to do it, you think, right, which one of these tasks am I going to do in the next 10 minutes? I've got 10 minutes. I need to get all these things done. Which one should I do? And then I'm looking at the list, and then 10 minutes is gone and I've not done any of them. So I think it's also important to maybe outline which are the most important tasks that you need to get done. And it's not necessarily the easiest tasks, because that's what people would say. They'll go, oh, that's the easiest, that's going to be the quickest, I'll get that one done. It might not be the most important one to help you progress. So yeah, I would say write them down, write your to-do list down. I also have a diagram of one of the overall targets or goals that I have. I know there's more to it once I achieve that, and it will keep progressing. But I look at that and think, right, that is my next target, and I've got to do all these things to get to that target. And like you say, you might not give yourself 2 months or 12 months, because people do this, right? They suggest give yourself 2 months and you'll get it done in that 2 months, but you might not do it properly in that 2 months. All right, yeah, you've started and you're further than you were 2 months ago, but who's to say if you give yourself 4 months, you might be able to do it better and achieve that target better than you were if you give yourself a shorter time scale. So it's about being realistic, right, in that time scale that you give yourself, but not giving yourself too long, because then you just it's quite a fine line, really, isn't it?
It really is. And I think the focus should be on not when it's finished, but when I start. I think that's where the focus should be, because I'm sure everyone listening to this, or everyone I've ever spoke to, work better when there's a deadline. And I tell you what, most people, let's say they've had a 3-month deadline, they'll do the work in the last week. It goes down to school, college, university, whatever, all the basic fundamentals we ever learn. we always do it at the very last possible second. So this is where I think the focus shouldn't be on the deadline when you want it to be done by, but it should be on when you want to start it. And it just takes as long as it takes then from there. But you need to make sure you're consistent once you've started it.
Yeah, it's all about just getting started. It was like this YouTube channel. I had this idea probably over 12 months ago from today, and it took me a good 6-9 months to actually get started. But it's not like I wasn't procrastinating and putting it off. It was just, let's find the time where I can actually commit to doing it every week. And I want to be able to deliver, and I don't want to have to start it and then stop it because I can't deliver. So let's move on and talk about mentoring, just to cap it all up, because mentoring is something that you've moved into, something that I've moved into, and I think it's a great way for you to progress personally, because you have people coming to you and asking you questions that you think, oh, I actually don't know that, I've got to go find that out. So it helps you, but it also helps your mentees. So tell us about what you offer for your mentoring.
Yeah, so what we offer is the full rent-to-rent model: rent-to-rent service accommodation, rent-to-rent HMO, and deal sourcing. Now, I spoke briefly earlier about I did a deal sourcing course, and people who were brought on didn't really know what they were doing in the rent-to-rent space.
Yeah.
I don't like the fact that people sell just deal sourcing on their own, because I think, all right, you can learn the fundamentals of how to sell a deal, but you don't know how to find the deal to sell it in the first place. So we link our deal sourcing. Exactly. So we link our deal sourcing training with either rent-to-rent HMO or rent-to-rent service accommodation. So we have online courses that are a lot cheaper, something that we were reluctant to do at first because we think the support is very much in the one-to-one. So we wanted it all to be one-to-one. But we understand not everyone can afford the one-to-one service, because obviously it comes at an increased price, because the way we package it, you've got both myself and Debbie, literally 24/7, no days off for the next 12 months. It comes at a price. So we realize not everyone can afford this, but we understand that our training is really good, because all of our one-to-one stuff, we do all the workbooks, and we've also filmed videos of us going through the workbooks, put them in the workbooks. So if they had any quick questions or they wanted to go back over stuff, the mentees, it's all there. So we effectively had the video online training anyway. We just never really released it. Yeah. But we eventually went down the route. We tidied a lot of things up and really promoted it as a online training. So it's exactly the same training as you get in a one-to-one. You just don't get us there, and it comes at a significantly cheaper price.
Yeah.
So that's either rent-to-rent HMO and deal sourcing, or rent-to-rent SA and deal sourcing. Whereas the one-to-one is everything: SA, HMO, and deal sourcing, and you get both myself and Debbie for the next 12 months.
That's pretty nice, man. I like it how you've scaled it as well, because you've given the option of buy the cheaper one, or have us one-to-one, because as you say, not everyone can afford the one-to-one, and it does come at a price, right? So I've thought about that, because I'm not actually doing that one-to-one at the minute.
Awesome.
Myself. But what I found is, because you take all these people on in your course, and then they start to message you personally anyway, and you think, well, I want to give you my time, but I've got about 20 other people messaging me as well. How do you give everyone that time, as well as do your own stuff as well? So I like the fact that you only take on a certain amount of people at a time. And that creates this uniqueness of what you offer. And you can kind of hold hands of the people that are in your mentorship, which is fantastic. So how do people get in touch with you and join anything that you have to offer?
Definitely. So there's a couple of ways. You can just find me on Facebook, Joe Edwards. We've got the Facebook page, which is Joe Edwards Property. If you did it in the address bar at the top, it'd be Joe Edwards Property New, because my original one, my whole Facebook got hacked, and they just transferred ownership to themselves and then just never give it me back. So I had to recreate that. To be honest, the actual Facebook page isn't that active. My Instagram page is a lot more active, so that's just at Joe Edwards Property. But what we also offer is, because we understand not everyone can afford the training but want that training and support, we offer 2 Zooms every single week, completely free of charge, for anybody who wants to get into rent-to-rent or deal sourcing, or if you're already doing it, just got a couple of questions, you don't have a mentor there, and you want to come on and ask questions. It's not behind a paywall. It's not, well, if you sign up to our mentoring, we'll then tell you the answer. We're just completely open and honest for 1 hour twice a week. And that is through a Facebook page called Rent2Rent and Sourcing Newbies. That is through there. If you go on my Instagram and stuff, you'll find it in like the link tree. It's all there. And that is literally just to give you guys help and value completely free of charge. And that's twice a week. And you know what? Unfortunately, that's actually a lot more than what you'll get out of a lot of paid mentorships. And I can see, you're agreeing. It's true. A lot of our mentees have done, I did something on Facebook the other day saying 90% of our mentees have done training with other people. And that's a complete fact. That is so true. Some of them spending upwards of £20,000 with people and they still didn't get that support. Some of them are, you can only contact me on a Monday and a Thursday or something like that. Yeah. It's like, I'm paying you thousands of pounds. I can only contact you twice a week. What? Yeah. So we are 24/7, weekends included, bank holidays included, Christmas included. Whenever you need us, we're here. We understand that this is an investment for you to get to that next level. And we'll do everything we can to get you there. We just can't do it for you. We do it for you. You're not learning. We're here to push you and guide you, and we'll get you to that next level.
I agree with that. And some of the prices some people pay for education, and I agree that you should be considering paying for some form of education, because it is a great way to hold yourself accountable and to learn the right things. But it's also about researching who the right person or right company is for you. I had it a while ago. I was working as a broker and someone contacted me saying, oh, I'm looking at buying this property. I've just finished this course. I'm not going to mention who they are. But they said, did however long on this course, and I'm now looking to start investing in property. And then they went on to ask me, with this property, do I need to pay stamp duty? And I was like, I'm sure you've just been through a course. They should have answered that question for you. And I couldn't believe that I was being asked that question from someone who's just spent thousands of pounds through a course.
Preach it. It happens all the time. The amount of people who come to me who are currently under mentoring with other people, and they've actively told me who their mentor is, and then they come to me going, well, I've just got my first Rent2SA. What's the first steps I actually need to do? I'm like, you've got a mentor? Why are you coming to me? Like, I'm more than happy to help, and I always do help. I'll always give them the steps. If they need help, I'm here to help people. It doesn't matter if you pay me or not, I'll always help you. Yeah. Obviously, if you do pay me, I'm here 24/7 to give you all my time in the world. But I will help people from time to time on the Facebooks. Zooms are the best place, but I totally agree with what you're saying there. People, come to yourself, come to myself when they've done training with other people, and they still don't get it. And this is the quality of the education out there. Yeah. I think it's poor, it's minimal. It's all about upselling to the next course, the more advanced training and this, that, the rest. We don't do that. We're CPD certified. We're an accredited training company. We're doing everything correct. We offer payment plans. Not a lot of people. I think there's probably like 2% of training companies out there that do that, and we are one of them, because everyone wants the cash in the pockets up front. We offer payment plans. You can spread the cost over 12 months. Even our online training, you can pay in 3 for that. So that's currently £1,500 the online training. So you can pay £500 a month for 3 months. You can pay outright if you wish. Mm-hmm. And the mentoring is currently £5,000, and you can pay over 12 months if you wish. Mm-hmm. Or you can pay outright. So we're giving people options. It's not about lining our own pockets. It's about just helping the people, and giving them the support, knowledge, and connections as possible. Because one of the biggest things is the relationships you gain whilst joining the program. Within the private mentee chat that we've got, there's so much business happening in there with people with loads of money, people with loads of time. Like, people will help you with anything. And we've got everyone all over the country. So if you're struggling to do a viewing or something like that, another mentee will go and do the viewing for you. Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah. And you think that £5,000 might sound like a lot to a lot of people, but put it in perspective, you get one deal and it's paid for itself.
So, exactly. Exactly. And it's interesting that you say that it's, it's a lot of money. And I totally agree. £5,000 is a lot of money to pay out. I totally get that. Yeah. But I have a lot of people come to me. So when I was actually on holiday, when obviously we had a conversation about doing a Zoom, I had a phone call with someone there who was interested in signing up. I mentioned the price, and she went, wow, that is so cheap. Why are you doing it so cheap? And I was like, well, it's not really, it's £5,000. Like, it's still a lot of money. And you understand, this person understands the quality of education. She understands what else is out there and what they're charging. So on a reflection, it is cheap, but it's still £5,000. I was speaking to some other mentors who I'm friends with who do Rent2Rent mentoring, and they said, damn, it's so cheap, Joe. Why are you charging so cheap? I'm like, it's a lot of money. Like £5,000 is a lot of money, and I think people get lost in the money in this world and fancy cars but it's £5,000. It's a lot of money, and I totally appreciate that. That's why we offer payment plans.
Yeah. Well, because you think anyone, 95% of the people looking to buy this product from you, they're on a 9 to 5 earning 20, 30 grand a year. So 5 grand out of that after tax, let's say they're earning 20 grand after tax, that's a good quarter of their income, right? So it is 100%. A commitment. Joe, I appreciate your time today. Before we end, I just want to do what we started doing at the end of every interview, is to ask the guest what their top 3 book recommendations are. So do you have 3 books that you could recommend for us?
I do, and I'll give you 3 books. There's around 5 that I recommend to all my mentees and people who come to me, but I'll give you 3 of my probably favorite ones from that list. One of them is probably one that most of you have read if you're getting into property, and it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yeah.
I think everyone who's in property, or 99% of people, have read that book. It's a fantastic book, and I think it's really good for your mindset, and it sets out, okay, this is interesting. This is how you get your money to work for you, and this, that, the rest.
Yeah.
Very, very good book. 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. That is a fantastic book as well. Have you read that one, Tom?
These 2 are in my top 5. So
fantastic book. If you think you can do something, read the 10X Rule, and I promise you right now, you will actually, as the title says, you will 10X what it is you're doing. Yeah. And the base of that book is, instead of making 2 or 3 calls a day, make 20 or 30 calls a day. 10X your work, and your results will 10X as a following of that. It makes sense. It's great.
Yeah.
And then the last one, I'm torn between 2, but I'll go with Gary Vaynerchuk, Jab, 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 Right Hook. Is that one you've read?
I've not. No,
you've not read that one. Okay, so the Jab, 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 Right Hook is a fantastic book, and the Jab, Jab, Jab relates to kind of giving value, doing favors for people. So if I give you 3 favors, so the Jab, 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 3 favors, you'll kind of automatically, as a human, be like, Joe's helped me out quite a lot here. I kind of need to do something to give back or help him out or do something. Yeah. It's the power of giving value. And then the right hooks, closing the sale. You'll see it a lot you go to buy a new car. Oh yeah, we'll do this for you. We'll do that for you. We'll do that for you. But then it's £25,000. They'll close you on that thing, but they've done everything for you. And that's what the Jab, 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 Right Hook is. It's about giving value, doing favors for people. And I think the focus should be on giving value. If you're doing a 3-to-1 ratio, giving value, and then you kind of close a sale, you're going to do well in life. It's about actually helping the people. And I hate selling. I hate selling to people with a passion. I'm not a salesman. We say this all the time. I hate selling. And we lose a lot of potential mentees because we don't sell. And that's just a fact. We're not here to sell the dream to you. It's hard work. You need to go out there and do the work yourself.
Yeah.
We can't do it for you. We'll be here every step of the way, but just can't do it for you. And also, this is something I tell people, we might not be the right mentoring company for you. And that's fine. If I'm going to sit here and sell you the dream, you're going to join because I made you, not because you want to. And I only want people under our mentoring that want to be here, not because I've made you be here because I've sold you the dream. And then you're going to go and complain about it to all the other mentors, because guess what? They all message me and saying, oh, I'm not happy here. That's why I don't sell. I hate selling.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Joe, I really appreciate your time today for joining us on the channel.
Thank you.
I've been watching your journey on social media for quite a while. I think since I started getting into property myself, actually. So it's a great honor to have you joining us today. And I'm sure our viewers got a lot of value out of that. And what we'll do is we'll put some links down in the description of how everyone can get in touch with you and your book recommendations.
Fantastic. I really appreciate you, Tom. Thanks for having me on the show. And I wish you all the luck with it, all the success in the world. It's good that you've taken a plunge and you started to do it. Like we said before, it's about the starting point, not the destination or where it's going to end or the deadline for it to end. It's about starting it. And that goes for everyone. Just start it. Even if, you do it for a couple of weeks, couple of months, and you go, you know what, it's not for me. At least you give it a go. Just start it. And that's the biggest takeaway I think you can get from today. But no, I really appreciate you, Tom. Thanks for doing this. And you're smashing it. Keep doing what you're doing. Really excited about your journey and what's going to come. And I can't wait to see what's going to unfold in the near future.
I appreciate it, mate. Thank you. And I appreciate everyone at home for tuning in today. Hope you got a lot of value out of that. And thank you for being a subscriber. Thanks to Joe again. And we'll see you again on the next one.
Ciao for now.